So we're going to go through all the different tools that you could use when you're doing your creek care in your backyard. Starting with the obvious ones, our hands, and using PPE is really important. Look after ourselves. You've got safety glasses, sun protection, long sleeves, long pants and sturdy shoes. And eye protection is always really important. You often forget how vulnerable you are to even flicking sand and dirt, as well as things coming down while you're weeding vines. So starting from smallest to largest, we have our little calmers. These tools, we'll get to show you again how to use them effectively in situ. So come on, have a look at this. We got the little calmers. They're really nice and lightweight. That's one of the best things about them. You don't have to, be carrying your mattocks around everywhere. So these lightweight tools, they're quite sharp, and they've been around many millennia. So these are traditionally used for harvesting rice and that kind of thing. So the design is very much well refined. It's a pulling action. Everybody in the workshop's got a wonderful hori. It's a very strong leverage tool. We use it to remove things with a sturdy taproot. Always handy to have your classic secateurs on hand. Pruning saw for woody weeds, and also even broken limbs that might have been damaged in floodwaters. And then we've got bigger tools, the tree poppers. These tools not everyone will have access to or even wanting to have in your own toolkit, but as mentioned, these are available through us as for hire or through the Stone Tool Library as well. Other things that we use when we're weeding is pieces of shade cloths. Are really handy just to be throwing your succulent weeds, Singapore daisy, things that you want to actually take out of the area. Or also for harvesting some of the grass, the weedy grasses that in turn become really good mulch for your plantings. It's just good to spread that out and be able to toss some weeds and grasses on top of it, and then nice and light to carry it out. Another version of that is a tub or a weed bag. So when it comes to regen and creek regen, if you can't ID, let it be. This means it's really important to know what plants you are dealing with. So get to learn what weeds that might be in your backyard on the creek, and also what native plants might be naturally regenerating, so that you can keep an eye out and you can help tip that balance to healthy habitat for all the guys that live here, the critters, and also the plants that are going to really thrive, the ones that hold the creek banks and provide great shade for the creeks. We'll also consider that the weeds are also habitat for the native fauna that lives here, and also doing a great job at stabilizing the soil in the meantime before you get busy removing them all. It's really good to understand the role of the weeds. So what we'll be looking for when we find our little natural bit of regen is we're going to be working outwards from those little healthy patches toward the areas of weeds. So once we get to learn about our native plants and then we identify them, that's where we're going to start. They're the strong points in our little project areas, and then we're going to be making minimal disturbance to the soil around these little patches of regen, and that's through using these tools that we'll go through. And of course we don't want to overclear, we don't want to open up more space that's not yet ready for that natural regeneration that's occurring. The exception, of course, is when you're ready to do a planting. You might want to really prepare an area by doing a bunch more clearing than you would if you're just doing natural assisted regen. So we're down on the creek bank. We've found some beautiful natural regen. We've found Lomandra hystrix, and it's also been seeding, and it's got a couple of young ones growing up beneath it. These plants are just great at holding the creek banks. It's been surrounded with this Singapore daisy plant that's just sprawling everywhere. So we were able to kind of give these guys a bit more space by hand weeding. We're just literally using hands, gloves on hands. We would have had our shade cloths out to pick up some of this to take it away up the top of the bank. So you can just use your hands to get in, and it's not super deep rooted, so you can pull it up by the roots. For the more deeper rooted plants, you can always use your hori-horis and get down and help dig those out. And en masse, you can actually use the calmers just to take some of the bulk off the tops. So the kamas are the great cutting tools that you can just literally pulling toward you. You're actually just pulling up lots of that Singapore daisy. This is where we've been dumping our Singapore daisy in this pile here on the top of the planting. It's really good to keep in mind that wherever you're temporarily putting your weeds, that it's not exposed to floodwaters which will carry it off downstream. So we've got this nice and high off the creek. What we could do is actually cover it with some builder's plastic or an old tarp or even old carpet. It's really good just to cover it to stop the light getting to it, and it helps it break it down, and you get lots of life coming up from the soil and helping break this down, eat it, and then turn it into really great compost, which then you can use around your veggie gardens or fruit trees, or even in future plantings that you're going to do. So here we've collected all these Madeira nodules and bits of the stem. We're going to treat this a bit differently to our other weeds. We're actually going to liquid compost them. We're going to put them in a drum with water so that they rot right down, because these guys, if you just put that in your compost, would just sit there for a while, and then when you spread out your compost in your veggie garden, you end up with all these Madeira plants coming up. So this is a technique called ring barking, and it's taking off the outer bark of a Chinese elm, and it's really important to know when to do this and when not to do this. In this situation, we're underneath a really mature Chinese elm, which is holding up a lot of the creek bank. This one is pretty much being shaded out by that tree, and we've planted a water house here to take its place as this one dies. It can take 12 to 24, sometimes longer, that many months before the tree actually starts to senesce and drop some of those limbs, which is something really important to consider. You want to be doing this in a suitable place where any limbs that come down aren't kind of a hazard to kids playing under them, that kind of thing. And I did this with the hori-hori. So very simple. You can use the straight edge of the hori-hori, get in there, and you're kind of peeling off the outer bark and exposing this heartwood. You're basically stopping the transference of the sugars and the water from the canopy and the roots. So I'm using the flat edge of my hori-hori and I'm pulling down, and you can see I've got the outer bark. It's coming off nicely in big sections, big ribbons. And if I do this all the way around, I've effectively killed the tree. And the benefit is it's not chopping the tree down, which would make it sucker for years, and it's also not going to lose all that foliage straight away and open up the canopy and get all the weeds to germinate beneath it. It's important to keep an eye on this because it will most likely shoot from beneath the ring barking. You just need to knock those off with the hori-hori again as they start to sprout. You might like to also add a bit of soil that might be introducing some of the microbes from even fungi to start getting into that heartwood to speed up the process of this tree senescing. So here we've got a whole grove of celtis, the Chinese elm. So we're going to use these awesome tree poppers to start removing them, making space for our future planting that's happening here. So the tree popper is made up of two parts. It's got the long lever and it's got the base plate, and in between is where we want the lowest part of our woody weeds to be grabbed by. So if you want to move in here, we've got the jaws of the tree popper nice and low around the Chinese elm. And it's always really important to be mindful of if this plant was to break, just what's behind you, and you want to be ready for anything like that to happen. So I'm having a look around me, and then so it's just you come on gently, a bit of pressure on that, and then just with the power of the lever, you're kind of just rocking a little bit, and I'm starting to lift out of the ground. So I've felt it release, and I'm lifting it out. You can grab it again a second time, lower down, or third time if you need to, and it's lifting right out. This one, that's great. It's obviously been buried in a lot of sand over the last few floods. So we might have some weedy grasses on site, so a really efficient way to get them out is to chop them out by the roots, just below the surface of the soil, and that leaves all those roots existing to help hold the soil while we have our planting getting established, which is going to really stabilise this creek bank.